Welcome to the Morning Glory Project, Stories of Determination. I'm your host, Betsy Graziani Fossbender. Like in nature, we see determined flowers and vines clinging to life and seeking light. So are Morning Glory people. And in this podcast, I'll interview writers, activists, artists, entrepreneurs, survivors and thrivers, and trailblazers of all kinds. These are folks that have been determined to get over, under, around, and through the obstacles that face them, or to seize the opportunities that come before them. I find these people inspiring and amazing. I know you will too. Today on the Morning Glory Project, I get to welcome not one, but two fabulous guests. Shannon Curtis writes and performs pop music, and Jamie Hill produces and creates music with all sorts of bands and artists. They're both writers and authors and speakers, and oh yeah, they're also married. For the last decade plus, Shannon and Jamie have been building on their shared delusion that a married pair of working artists can make a successful life together far outside of any industry mainstream. That's what I want to talk to them about today. Their journey on this unpaved path has led them to the heart of the community-centered work they do and has given definition to the life they aim to live. The two of them set out every summer to deliver Shannon's songs to audiences across the continent, wrapped in an intimate house concert experience. They're currently preparing for their 9th annual house concert tour, which will take them to about 75 backyards and living rooms all across North America. Each show is a community-driven effort hosted by someone who supports the music that they do, and they're performed at the host's local community of friends and family. In 2019, Shannon and Jamie launched a weekly podcast, an online community they call Misfit Stars. And that's where they get to chat a bit about other things that are on their mind. They are passionate about teaching what they know to other artists so that those artists can develop and grow independently their own career-sustaining communities of supporters. They speak at conferences and do mentors and workshops. And they've also published a best-selling how-to book that I've got to get the name of because it's not here written for me. So thank you for joining us on the Morning Glory Project today, Shannon and Jamie. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us, Betsy.
Hey, Betsy.
So let me do the technical thing first. What's the name of your how-to book?
Yeah, absolutely. The book is called No Booker, No Bouncer, No Bartender. How I made $25,000 on a 2-month house concert tour, and how you can too, because long titles are really important. But it's just essentially a how-to book telling other people how we do the house concert touring that we do, because it's been so fulfilling and successful for us. We just felt like we had just a treasure we needed to share with other artists who were interested in pursuing a career that looked like this as well.
Wonderful. Well, let me tell you, there are two reasons I wanted to talk with you. First of all, well, there's three because I think you're fabulous, but there's two big topics that I wanted to talk about. And one I'll start with is this, and that is that I think that because of technology and industry, that the world for artists and musicians has just changed. I know for myself as a writer, the whole world of self-publishing and hybrid publishing and other alternatives other than the sort of traditional brick and mortar publishing houses has emerged. And also that doors have been closed off. And it seems that while I'm not a musician, it seems that things like Spotify and Pandora and all those things have they virtually eliminated people buying albums as I used to know them? So you've sort of invented another way in this new landscape. Tell me a little bit about that as artists. And am I right in assuming that it was sort of like, wow, all the traditional doors are closed. We're going to do this our own way.
So first of all, you're absolutely correct. And I can give you a very quick statistic to back this up. On this summer's tour that we did, we sold 25% the number of CDs that we had sold 3 years prior in 2016, right? A quarter. However, we also, in last year's tour, made more money on a per show basis than we had in any prior year. And I think this really underscores what has kind of been at the root of like us feeling like we have an avenue still, which is that people still want to support art that they like. They just don't necessarily want to buy outmoded physical artifacts. So it's just really become incumbent on us to figure out a way to connect directly to the people who want to support what we do.
And I think also in addition to that, like, I think that it's been a constant process of learning and reinventing as we go, like we don't have the luxury of just coasting. We have to pay attention to how things are working, what's not working, and adjust as we go. And that's really kind of where the house concert thing came from.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've learned is that people still do have a need. Of course, we still have, as humans, we still have a need to connect with art experiences, to connect with each other, we find meaning in those experiences. And I think that coming to that realization has actually, I think, helped me and maybe and us as a team sort of reevaluate what it is that we do. Like I make music, and I love music and I do love it. But what I've come to understand is that I make music not just because I love music, but because I love people. And so, and giving people an opportunity to make a deeper connection through the experience of an intimate, house concert experience, community-based experience, giving people an opportunity to make a deeper connection with themselves and with each other. And the music is just kind of like the front door to that experience. You know what I mean? And so I think what we've learned is that, yes, making music is a very important part of what we do, but it's not the end goal. The end goal is fostering opportunities for people to create community with each other.
And indeed, I think that there are a lot of people at this point who have come within our orbit who have maybe never heard a note of music we make, or if they have, maybe they don't listen to it regularly, or maybe they don't even like it, but perhaps they like the community thing that we're bringing into the world. I really get that sense. There's definitely some people with whom I speak who are like really close in our, say, Facebook world or whatever, where I'll obliquely mention something that for us is maybe a big cultural touchstone, like, the I know video or whatever. And they'll be like, I've never heard of that. It's interesting.
Well, it sounds like you're just creating a lot of different roads for people to find and connect to you, and for you to connect with them and to help them connect with each other. I'm also wondering, there's also a funny little phenomenon. Maybe this is only in my head. I'll share it and see if you think it's so. It seems like there's this we're in this technological age, no doubt, where everything's becoming more and more tech. And then it seems like there's a backlash, like where we want the simple and the basic. So for example, I'll give you a silly one. We've got all this technology that lets us touch screen and all that stuff. And what did my husband give me for Christmas this year? But a typewriter keyboard that actually clicks when you type it.
Oh, great.
So it's like an old fashioned, but I can put my phone on it, and I can type like I used to type, with clicks and a carriage return and all that. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, for all the way that we can download an MP3 in 1 second, as opposed to going to the record store and buying a record, that people also still crave that live music experience, that simple being in the room with you and hearing music. When they could have it at their home in 1 second, but there's something very different about having the real experience of it.
Yeah, well, think about the evolution of our species. We are social beings. Like, we have a biological need to be with each other. And I think that the advancements in technology really, offers the alluring option to never have to see another person face to face ever, if you wanted to do that.
Which some days sounds pretty good, but
absolutely,
not all the time.
Absolutely, but I think we do need those experiences for healthy, thriving lives, and I think that what we experience when we go out on our tours, there are some people who get that. There are some people who ahead of time understand, yes, this is something I need in my life. I'm going to go be with people. Then there are others who come because they've been invited by their friend to do this weird thing in their backyard, and they show up and we kind of like get to sort of like take them by surprise with the idea that, oh my gosh, this is something I really needed, and again, they may have a moving experience with the music itself, but I think that the whole experience of just being together, sharing this time together in an intentional way around something that's meaningful is something that we desperately need. And sometimes we don't even realize we need it until we've had it. Like one of the things we've been doing the last number of years on our tours is we've actually asked people at the beginning of the concert to put their phones away, turn them off and put them under their chair, and not be like, no photos, no videos, no texting, no like social media sharing during the concert. Again, giving people an opportunity just to connect in real life with what's happening right in front of them, right in their midst, and it's sort of transformational in a weird sort of way.
Well, I watch certain events and I look around and I realize that a bunch of people, instead of being at the event and experiencing it, they're in the room, but watching it on a screen because they're recording it to post later. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, how about if you were present in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but here's something wild about that. When you are looking at something that you're like when you're looking at that screen to record the thing that you're at, you are literally you're not wiring the brain pathways that you need to subsequently remember that event days, months, years later. So you're literally robbing yourself of future memories of the thing you're at. Like it will just be erased because your brain is not making those pathways because you're recording it.
Now, wait a minute. I have to stick here for a second because it's almost counterintuitive, right? Because you're recording it so that you'll remember it. But you're saying that because I'm distancing myself from the experience and doing it through a screen and not actually being there, that I'm actually not storing it in my own brain in the same way.
That's right. They've been doing studies about this actually, like that your brain kind of acknowledges like, oh, this memory is taken care of by this machine here. I don't have to do the work to actually remember this in the way that, evolutionarily speaking, I'm able to remember it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's as basic as us resorting back to our caveman around the fire, caveman and woman around the fire kind of experience where you're just 100% there.
Yeah.
And you're there with your community with shared light on each other's faces. And
yeah.
So it's funny. So the evolution of this no devices at the concert thing went as follows. We came up with the idea because, we didn't come up with it. Someone else came up with it at a concert that we attended a few years ago. She walked out on stage, this artist, and before she played a note of music, she walked us all, those of us in the audience, through this idea that we're not going to do phones. We're just going to be present in the moment. And everyone stuck with it. And it was an amazing experience. It was one of the best live music experiences that either Shannon or I had in years. And so we just stole it. It wasn't our idea, but, great artists steal and all that. So at first we just had the host of the house concert at the beginning when they were making their introductory remarks, just do a quick, hey, please put your phones away kind of thing. But it's awkward, I think, for the host of the house concert to do that because they're asking their people something potentially fraught and they don't know how to manage it. And it didn't always come across really convincingly. So we had mixed results. For the past couple of years, I've actually gotten up front before the host makes their introductory remarks. And I have like a 3 to 4 minute long speech that I make about this. Like I really lean with serious intentionality on this idea. And I walk people very quickly through the what are we doing and why are we doing it? So it's really a very intentional thing. It's not just tossed off. I really lean on the idea that this is a community experience and what we want to do is to communicate with you. And I really explicitly tie together the idea that the root of the word community and the root of the word communicate are the same root, right? Mm-hmm. That one is the pathway to get to the other. And here is an adventure that we're going to go on together now as a group. And it's wonderful. Like watching, it's funny because I have to walk people very, very quickly through the 5 stages of grief around their devices, right? With the denial and the bargaining and all of it, But by the end, I think that people genuinely get to like a sort of 6th stage, which is genuine excitement for these days, very unusual out of the box thing that we're about to do as a group, as a community together. And I really feel like it intensifies the experience for everyone because there's that added layer of that, hey, we're reverting to caveman status. Like you said, like we're just sitting around the fire together, we're doing a thing and we're all going to be here. And it's really cool.
I also think it might tap into another deal, which is John Bradshaw decades ago wrote the line, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that we should strive to be human beings, not humans doing. That being quality, that being present, and that what I've always preached and preached and teached is that multitasking is a myth. So that really people that think they're multitasking are just toggling quickly between things and not doing any of them full justice. So I'm wondering if I'm sitting at your concert and holding up my phone, even if I'm holding it to the side of myself and I'm trying to be present for your thing, I'm still aware of that phone thing. And I'm aware then, I'm going to post this later on and I'm going to get this response. And I bet so-and-so will like that. So it's like just taking me out of the present experience. And I'm therefore doing both of them badly. Maybe that's why it doesn't go into the brain, Jamie. Maybe that's it. There, ta-da, we solved it. We
did. Let's all smash our phones. Yeah.
Well, so tell me, so what you're doing here is you as artists are blazing a new trail and in the ever-changing landscape. And I'm wondering what obstacles you face when you're trying to do that, when you're trying to live you're trying to live your life and pay your bills and do the things that everybody wants to do, plan how you want to conduct your life. But what obstacles do you face in trying to live as artists in this way? What are your biggest hassles or tripwires?
Honestly, I feel like my biggest tripwires or hassles are myself often, in terms of, I have a tendency to struggle with the notion of scarcity. What we do, we don't have a paycheck that's coming in regularly every 2 weeks. It's not like a job we clock in and out of and rack up hours and we know for certain what our income's going to be. It's very uncertain. And, whereas there are a lot of areas in my life where I've gotten comfortable with uncertainty, like not exactly knowing how the universe works. I'm fine with that, but like, the idea of not really being sure or being able to count on, what's coming in, money wise to pay our bills and to eat food,
right.
and, stay living under a shelter, and all those kinds of good things.
Yeah, those terrible habits of food and shelter.
Yeah. But, I wrestle with the idea of, what if there's not enough? And it's something that I've been really working a lot on in my own life over the last couple of years. I wrote about it pretty intensely on the record we put out last year, actually. But really trying, I'm trying to overcome the notion that there isn't going to be enough, because that's a downward spiral for me. When I start to let that thinking take hold, then I cripple myself in terms of what I'm able to create and produce and think about. And, it just hampers me. So oftentimes
how do you stop yourself? How do you stop when you catch yourself doing that? Because I think that scarcity fear is present in so many of us. I mean, my hand is up right now. And I don't have a 9-to-5 with a benefits package and a pension and all those things. So I get it. So what do you do when you catch yourself going down that scarcity spiral? How do you pull out of it? What resources do you use?
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned that is helpful for me is to be generous with others in those times. Like when I don't feel like there's going to be enough, that's a perfect time to go offer myself as service to somebody else, or to give money to someone who needs it, or a cause that needs it. What I've learned is that when I'm keeping my fist clenched to hang on to the last dregs of whatever it is I think I'm going to need to survive, the thing that I need to do is the opposite action, and that is to open my hand. And an open hand that is available for giving is coincidentally also open for receiving. And I find that mental shift for me is something that really helps.
Wow. I want to put a little bubble wrap of silence around that for a second, because I think that it's so counterintuitive when we're feeling afraid, when you're feeling the pulling in, you're saying, no, that's when you open up. And I think that's true of other relationship issues too. When we feel hurt, our inclination is to just close up, when in fact, that's when we want to put our chin back out and be more vulnerable and welcome love in. So there's this parallel I'm hearing in the way that you're talking about that, that you have to fight your reaction and find your deeper intuition, which is, wait a minute, this is the time to open up and welcome in and out.
Mm-hmm. And it is vulnerable to open your hand, right? That is scary, scary stuff.
Well, which is why people don't do it, right? Which is why we get scared and we hole up and we go into our house, and we've now built them so that we never have to leave. We can have food delivered, and we can buy our MP3s online.
Well, but that's the thing, is like the act of being vulnerable that's like, it is scary, right? Opening yourself up to the world in that way is frightening, but that's also where all the good stuff is that we need to live and thrive in this world. Like, we don't get any of that good stuff if we don't open ourselves. And so that's the paradox, right? Like, you gotta do it. You gotta do it scared in order to get to the good stuff.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to chew on that for a little while. Thank you very much. Not because it's brand new, but because you've said it in a way that's making me think at another level about it, which is really lovely. Thank you for that. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, because I know that you've recorded many, many beautiful, amazing songs. And I love your voice. I love your music. I love what you two do together. But one song stands out for me, and it's called I Know, I Know. And in fact, I heard you sing this live, and I bought a tote bag that has it on there. And I don't use it as a tote bag. I cut it and I framed it and I put it in my office.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah. Well, so you've been on my mind ever since I heard that song. And the song is about hearing somebody and hearing their pain and being able to empathize with it. I know, I know. Can you tell me about the origin of that song, Shannon? And maybe then Jamie, tell me how it touches you too, or how you're part of that as well.
Yeah, the origin of that song honestly came as a result of these house concert experiences that we do. That song was recorded in 2015, and we had been doing our annual house concert tour for just a couple of years at that time. And one of the things that I realized in those first few years of doing house concert touring is that there was this wild phenomenon that would happen at the end of a lot of the shows. People who, when they arrived that night, they were strangers. I had never met them before in my life. We sat together. We had this experience of me sharing my music with them. And by the end of the evening, they would come up to me at the pop-up store at the end of the night, and they would have tears in their eyes, and they would just have a desperate need to tell me about whatever it is that they were going through. Can I share with you about how I've been struggling with depression since I was a kid? Can I tell you about how I was diagnosed with breast cancer a couple of months ago? Can I tell you about how my partner just left? Deep stuff that people really wanted to share with me. And I think the thing that I understood that was happening, the dynamic there, is that they had received me and allowed me to be seen for the hour during the concert. And they felt a need to reciprocate that, or to have that street go both ways. And so it really opened up this notion for me that we really have a need to allow ourselves to be seen by one another. And therefore, if we can just take an opportunity to listen to one another, that's one of the best gifts that we can give another human being, is to just listen to their story. And even if you've not been through the exact circumstance they've been through, to be able to say, I know, I've felt that way, I've been there. There is just so much power in giving that gift to someone else, to let them know that they're not alone. I've received that gift from countless people over the course of my life. And so that's the origin of that song.
And I know that the two of you bring to this music that you do, and while Shannon is the voice in the music, I know, Jamie, you're a part of producing and creating that and facilitating extraordinaire. I know that you also bring your own histories to what you do. So I'm wondering what you've experienced that you think makes your music and your connection to people deeper than just the music itself might be. Jamie, maybe you can speak to that.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny. So it's no secret to anyone who's ever seen me on the internet that I am a sober alcoholic and drug addict with long-term sobriety. And so I center that kind of those sorts of thought processes in kind of everything I do in my life, only because, when you're a sober alcoholic, it's a pretty good idea to keep that right at the center of your vision at all times, because, because my disease will try to kill me until the day I die. And so, I got to keep it within sight and real close. Something about addiction that I've learned, and there are other people who have said this better than me. This is not a thought that's unique to me, but it's the idea that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is community, right? The idea that when we surround ourselves with loving, healthy people, that's when we stop having that hole in the center of our being, right? I mean, there's also personal work that we need to do on the inside to sort of, close that circle. But a huge part of not just feeling empty in that way that you then need to fill up with, drugs or alcohol or gambling or porn or food or whatever it is feeling like you're loved and like you're at the center of a group of nurturing humans who value you, and so that's kind of where I hook into a lot of stuff. For me, like the music side really is, it comes for me from a place of service. And there's different aspects to that, when I'm working with an artist, be it Shannon or, someone else. What I do, for my work, my artistic work is I'm a record producer, right? So what that means is that I help artists make their art. I'm sort of like an art midwife kind of. And I come in at various points in the process. Sometimes, I'll help with songwriting to some degree, and sometimes I'll just come in at the end of the process and put a polish on something someone else has done. But every step along that process is an opportunity to center somebody else's vision and to really try to get myself, in terms of my ego, out of the equation, and that it's funny. You asked a little while ago about like what we struggle with in our artistic processes, right? And for me, the biggest shift for me over the past 5 years has been getting myself out of the picture. Really, getting my ego out of the way. The ego thing stems for me from insecurity, from wondering whether I'm valued. It's it's not unlike what Shannon was sharing about her scarcity mentality. It's just from a different perspective. And I'm not sure, I've been doing a lot of work on it, but also there are other things that have happened over the past decade, like just getting older. 10 years ago, I was 37. Now I'm 47. You do a lot of changing in those time periods. I've had the opportunity, I just think because of what time does, to let go over the last number of years of things that aren't working for me as well, or maybe it's that I've had the opportunity to identify things that aren't working as well. And then once you identify something, it's like, well, I should probably get rid of that,
Well, it's interesting, Jamie, that you say you've had the opportunity, but it's been my observation, or maybe it's a belief of mine, that everybody has the opportunity, but some people take it and some people don't. That there's still some decision in there. It's like, oh, there it is. Yeah, I guess I need to work on that. So there's a decision, a voluntarism to saying, oh, this is something I need to continue to work on or overcome or grow through or grow out of or let go of. That there's a choice there at the bottom of that little curve. One more thing about your working, and that is because you're a couple, I wonder what the challenges and the blessings are of working with your mate in the way
I'm
that
the
you
challenge,
do.
Shannon's the blessing.
Now she's laughing but not disagreeing,
Right? No, that's funny, but it's not true.
So I know that for me, one of the huge, I think the challenges are probably pretty apparent, right? I think that and we can enumerate some of them if you'd like, but I think for me, to focus a little bit on the blessings side of the equation first, it has deepened our relationship immeasurably. And there was a really tough transitional time in there that had to do with both of us getting confident with who we are as artists, that sort of getting over that hump of feeling like we are, that the amount of recognition that we have is appropriate and enough, with getting our dreams, our personal dreams, right-sized vis-a-vis our work. And we, in 2013, 2014, I think had some real growing pains in terms of trying to, just exert influence over one another's part in the process. I think that once we it took us a long time to arrive at a comfortable balance in our working relationship, at a place where we each felt like we were being heard and respected, but also that we each had room to expand and stretch our wings and flourish, you know? But the relationship growth, outside of our working relationship, just our personal relationship growth that sort of happened in parallel with that process has been amazing to me.
I think also, you know, in order to do work together, I mean, again, like we get back to like, we do need to do work to pay our bills and eat food and stay living in a sheltered place. You know, like we really do have to work out the work stuff in order to continue to be productive, you know? And so in a way, the requirement for us to have to work through all the stuff we've needed to work through vis-a-vis our working relationship, like Jamie said, like it's been a benefit to our personal relationship at the same time. You know, we both come into this relationship with a background in recovery, Jamie from alcohol and drugs, and me from codependency. And, you know, getting to use the tools that we have each learned from our programs, in terms of just, you know, keeping short accounts, making sure that we're staying on top of our spiritual maintenance, individually, you know, communicating responsibly with one another, you know, all the tools that we have had to learn vis-a-vis our recovery, bringing that into our working relationship. It's just, I feel that's a real blessing that we've had so many opportunities to use those tools in our time together. You know, if we weren't working together, we might not necessarily feel the urgency to have to stay on top of that stuff. You know, like it might be easier to coast, but like we have, you know, a daily opportunity to use those tools and to stay on top of that stuff in a way that benefits our personal relationship at the same time.
It's going to be in your face every day.
Yeah.
And that's good. You know, there's a saying, in sobriety, there's a lot of sayings in sobriety. It's a sayings-based thing. But there's one that is just always at the forefront of my consciousness, which is that we are granted a daily reprieve contingent on maintenance of our spiritual condition, right? The idea being that, like, you can't coast when your brain is trying to kill you. You know, because like my brain will be there until I die, and it's just lying there patiently in wait for me just to slip up enough to get lazy enough to create an opening for it to come in and utterly destroy my life, you know? And so that mindfulness that I really, for, you know, just from a survival perspective, have to have, you know, so I don't start drinking again and end up homeless and die, it really pays dividends in terms of my personal relationship and therefore working relationship with Shannon. Just the idea that slips can be everywhere and that they can manifest themselves in ways that don't seem like it. But it's always the times in my life when I, in retrospect, have been getting a little bit lazy with my spiritual upkeep that I have the worst times, you know, be they episodes of depression or just, you know, long periods of discomfort with Shannon, you know, where I just can't seem to get a nice thought in my head or out of my mouth, you know?
I think I feel compelled to say to you right now, I know, right? Anybody that's been in a long marriage or relationship or has had to manage those kinds of storms with somebody, we all have, whether we're in recovery from addiction or just recovery from weathering the world. I'm so grateful to you both for being here today. And I want to ask you one quick question, which is, how can people find you? What's the best place if they're interested in having a house concert this summer or
Absolutely.
learning about the work that you produce together? How could they find you?
So you can find the work that we do under my name, the music that I write and we record together at shannoncurtis.net. There's also information there about our house concerts. And actually, if anyone's interested in hosting a house concert, the best thing you can do is to subscribe to the email list. It's my love letter list. It's what I call it, to get newsletters. Because we start the search for our hosts for 2020. We'll begin that search in the coming months. So that's where you can find us. Also, our podcast is at misfitstars.com. So if you want to listen to us talk with each other about stuff that matters to us more, then you can, you'll find our podcast at misfitstars.com or anywhere you listen to podcasts too. And then Jamie's got his website.
Yeah. If anyone's interested in hearing the work that I do, I keep a running sort of SoundCloud playlist of my just favorite things that I've made, which at this point is getting pretty long. It's a good listen. It's at departmentofelnergymanagement.com.
That's terrific. Well, you've offered a special gift that I'm going to share with our listeners as we depart. And that is that they're going to get to listen to the beautiful song, I Know, I Know. And that's coming up. So I want to thank the two of you for your generosity of spirit and your time and your candor and for your music as well. Thank you for being such beautiful blossoms in this morning.
Thanks for the work you do too.
Thank you so much, Betsy.
Ooh, so many extra blooms from my conversation with Shannon Curtis and Jamie Hill today. Two things really jump out. One is their emphasis on community and how community and communication start from the same root word. That it's about connection and that their storytelling takes the form of song, but it's really not just about the music, it's about the connection. I love that. That's the way I feel about writing books too and writing stories. And I wonder if you painters and sculptors and dancers and other kinds of artists feel the same way, that your art is a vehicle for connection and communion with other people. I rather like that. And the second thing that really stands out from my conversation with the two of these lovely people is the whole idea that we have to fight our intuition when we're afraid of closing down, tightening up, sewing things up. That instead, that's the time to open. That's the time to be more vulnerable. That's when we're in times of scarcity, we should seek our own generosity. I rather love that. I'm going to think about that for a while. Today, we're going to end this particular episode with a little extra present, and that is the recording of I Know, I Know by Shannon Curtis and her lovely partner, Jamie Hill. If you like this particular song, you'll love finding the rest of Shannon's beautiful music. Enjoy, and hey, go out and bloom.
Come sit right here, tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Let it all pour out. I will catch your story in my wings. This is the beginning of all that we cry out for. You seeing me, seeing you. We are found. I know, I know, I know, I know you live all alone in a cold and dark room. I know, I know, I know, I know you don't see a way out. You're stuck there for good. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know how it feels. I've lived it too. Shadows only catch us from behind. Let's turn and face them. Switch on the light. Never mind the cracks you try